What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Bullpen. Today, my guest, the best description I could give you guys of my guest is he looks like fucking Hercules. I've said that from the beginning. This dude is actually I think you know this, but grow up being a BYU football fan. My dad played at BYU football. My grandpa coached there for 21 years, and I'll never forget watching you play, and like probably one of the best times of BYU football that we've ever had, right? So growing up, watching you, so that's why I've been telling you, man, I'm being excited to get you on the fucking podcast, man. So let me give you guys an idea of just how big of a stud this dude is. Not only physically, because when you see this dude, if you're a dude, you're gonna be like, what the fuck do I need to do to get those kind of calves, right? But Jordan Pendleton is the owner of Performance One, a training facility in Lehi, Utah, that specializes in performance and sports performance. He's been doing this for over 8 years, starting his business back in 2014. Pendleton, as I said to you guys, was a former three-year starter at BYU, named to the NSCA All-American team, no question, which I might want to bring up a couple things there for you, so remind me to talk about that there. He has worked with thousands of athletes over the years and has clientele that ranges from youth to professional athletes and anyone looking to reach their highest potential. Jordan is passionate about helping people with mindset, fitness, and nutrition. In his free time, you can find him in the park playing with his dogs, which you got some beast of dogs.
Yeah,
I love your dogs, yeah. And spend time with his wife and their daughter, Penelope. Bro, I'm fucking excited to have you on, man.
I'm excited to be here.
There's a lot of good shit to cover.
Yeah.
But, like I ask everybody, because the truth is, man, I want to know, you've done some cool shit, right? You've built a massively successful business. Everyone in Utah knows about your fitness training, right? I'm not kidding when I say that. Everyone knows about Pendleton Performance, right? Everyone knows about you as a trainer. You've made a massive name for yourself, a massive brand, stemming back to the times when you're at BYU, right? Obviously, you've killed it now in business, and you've got some other ventures we might bring up, that you're killing. But, dude, what's your story, bro? Like, how did you get to this point? How did you become this all-American stud who literally walks around like fucking Hercules, killing it in business? What's your story, man?
Yeah, man. My childhood was a little bit different than most kids' childhoods, right?
Yeah.
I would say from a very, very young age, I was possessed.
What do you mean possessed?
I wanted to be great.
Yeah.
And sports was my whole life, I was just joking with my wife about this the other day. Like my daughter, they just went to Disneyland.
Oh, really?
She's been to Disneyland. My daughter, she's not even 2 years old. She's been to Disneyland more than I have. And I'm 33 years old, right? So my childhood was, it was very singular focused. I had one goal and one goal only since I was 5 years old, and that was to play professional football.
Yeah.
And a huge part of that was my dad. My dad, played in the NFL for a little bit.
Oh, I didn't know.
And he was a stud, man. He was a stud growing up, and my childhood was different. He was really hard on me, and not in a sense where it was like abusive or everybody has a different definition of what hard is.
Yeah.
And so to me, like some kids, if they were raised like the way I was raised, would shut down or cry or would feel like they're getting picked on or they wouldn't like it.
Right.
To me, I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted it. I wanted more. And a prime example of that is just I grew up in South Jordan, Utah.
Right. Because you went to Bingham.
I went to Bingham. I played at Bingham, and growing up, like the typical, like an average day for me and my dad was like when I went to practice. Practice was practice. Like I go to football practice, right? I'm in Little League. I'm 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And practice gets done, the average individual would go home,
right?
Right, and go play with their friends or whatever, go play video games. My dad would take me straight from practice, and he would take me to Bingham. And there's in the back of the parking lot, there's a huge hill. Like when you're driving down from the backside, there's a huge hill, and he would make me go run hill sprints, right?
Right.
And then I'd get home, and he'd be like, "Hey, we need to make 100 free throws before you go to bed."
Right.
And then every night I would have to do 100 push-ups.
Yeah.
And so that would scare most kids off. Whereas to me, it was like, I wanted more.
Right.
And so that was kind of the way I was raised. And it worked for me because I loved it.
Yeah.
And it made me obsessed. It made me, I knew and then I could also see the results start paying off.
Right.
And so I just became obsessed with it. I went to Bingham High School, played at Bingham, was able to win a state championship there in basketball and football.
Yeah.
The coolest thing about
that was a time of Bingham domination.
That was when the Bingham dynasty really started.
Absolutely.
And
No question.
for me, what was most special about my high school career was, everybody looks at Bingham and they've kind of fallen off. Recently, you got Corner Canyon and some other schools that are doing well, but everybody looks at Bingham and they think championships, dynasty.
Yep.
When I got there and we took state my senior year, Bingham hadn't won a state championship in 60 years.
Wow.
So 1946 was the last time that Bingham had taken state in football.
Yeah.
And I really took that upon myself. I wanted to be the one that was going to break that, right? Because there was like a curse.
Yeah.
Like we had some really good teams. My brother, who's 6 years older than me, he was a stud. He had some really good players playing with him. They had some really good teams, quarterfinals, semifinals. For whatever reason, I mean, even my junior year, we went undefeated.
Yeah.
And then we lost in the quarterfinals.
Oh, shit.
And so it almost felt like there was this curse. And I just remember that next season. I remember when we lost in the quarterfinals that next season. I was like, this is not going to fucking happen again because I'm, again, it goes back to being possessed. And so that whole off season was just crazy. And we ended up breaking that curse. And then Bingham ended up having an awesome dynasty. But really growing up, it was all sports for me, man. I'd never went on a trip unless it was for sports.
Right.
Like if I traveled, it was because we had a tournament somewhere. And so from a very young age, that was all I really cared about. That was all I really did.
Yeah.
And had a really good career in high school and ended up going and playing at BYU and went to BYU on a full ride scholarship. And, I really only had, I was so, like I said, singular focused on one goal. I didn't care about anything else. There was no plan B for me. It was like, I'm going to the NFL or bust pretty much. And throughout my career at BYU is kind of what led me into my into the path that I'm on now.
Right.
Is my sophomore year is when I started getting injuries and started getting hurt,
Right.
and that was really
You had a ton of injuries.
a ton.
Yeah.
Yep. And so my sophomore year, tore my labrum and my bicep tendon. Came back from that. My junior year, I dislocated my patella, tore my other labrum, my right labrum. I had a screw holding my thumb together. Senior year, I even tore my labrum again.
Yeah.
And so, 3 labrum tears, bicep tendon tear, 5 knee surgeries. And what killed me was my knee.
Yeah.
My junior year, I dislocated my patella. I came back, was feeling really good my senior year, but I had pretty much a misdiagnosis on my knee, and I had cartilage damage, and I was playing on it, and people always I say microfracture surgery. It sounds like nothing, like it's
Right.
micro.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Right.
It's pretty much a death sentence in football and even basketball. Pretty much I was bone on bone. And I compare it to like a windshield. You crack your windshield, you go get that shit fixed right away.
Yeah.
It's not going to spread.
Right.
I had cartilage damage and I played on it and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, where I was bone on bone on my knee and that was what ended my career. I would be lying if I said throughout that time period I didn't go through some depression and just figuring out like who the hell, like aside from sports, who the hell am I? Right? Like that was really my only identity was Jordan Pendleton football.
Right.
And I really had to find a new identity, but there was one thing I remained super passionate about, and that was freaking training and working hard and doing anything I could to get an edge or a step up on my competition.
Right.
And I became obsessed with performance and training. And one of my injuries is actually what led to me changing my major. I was doing just some shit major to I didn't care about school.
You didn't want it to interfere with football.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So I'd rather watch film than, so I picked a really easy major that I could just graduate, but really I didn't really care. And one of my injuries was kind of an eye opener for me where I was like, all right, man, you should, like, you're getting free education. You should really choose something that could lead to something else. And so after my first shoulder surgery, I started getting into the human body, and I was like questioning things like, why, how did this happen? Why? I couldn't pinpoint when or how it happened. And that's when I switched my major over to exercise science. And at the time I was taking an anatomy class, and that's what did it for me, dude. Yeah. I started just, I had the time to study because I wasn't at practice.
Right.
I was rehabbing. I was out for 8-9 months, and I could really, for the first time, focus on school and focus on my homework. And that's kind of where it started. Even then, still realizing that, my career wasn't over. It was just a shoulder, tons of guys, Terrell Abrams. But that was kind of the first thing for me. And then when it was over, that's when I really set on a path to be a trainer. I actually really wanted to be like a college strength and conditioning coach. And so I went and did internship. I did an internship at University of Kentucky. I've done internships kind of various places, but that was really where the whole training business started. Yeah. And I remember doing my internship at Kentucky, and I'm a builder. I like to build things. Yeah. Whether it's somebody's body or getting somebody stronger or myself, right? Or, seeing something from scratch and then seeing what the goal actually is and then trying to take it to that place. Yeah. So, which is like an entrepreneur, right? Exactly. Like that's what entrepreneurs like. So exactly, right. I realized in my mind, I as much as I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach, I also had this other part of me that was very entrepreneur, like a very entrepreneur mindset where I wanted to build something that not only would last, but something that could help a ton of people. And that's where I started Pendleton Performance LLC back in 2014, and have been doing that ever since. Yeah. And it's been challenging. It's been a hell of a ride, but it's been fun, and we're still going, man. So it's been it's been fun, dude.
Dude, let me for everyone listening to this, I guarantee you there's a lot of people listening to this, especially because a lot of people listening to this are entrepreneurs. And what I've found is that there's a lot of entrepreneurs who come from a sports background where their sports dreams didn't work out, right? Yep. I'm one, right? My goal was nothing more than football, right? Football. And man, like when it was gone, it was probably one of the darkest times of my life. I've never cried so hard, right? So I'm curious of your thoughts of like, take me to the moment when you knew football was done. How did you feel?
The moment I knew it was done, it still wasn't done.
Interesting. Okay. What do you mean by that?
So I had my microfracture surgery. I had come back from 1, 2, 3, 4. I had already come back from 4 injuries or surgeries. Yeah. And so in my mind, I'm like, I'm a fucking machine. Yeah. Right. Like, nothing can put me down. I'm gonna come back from this even stronger. I mean, I remember having a knee surgery my junior year. Later, having a knee surgery my junior year. That next year, going into my senior year, we had a junior pro day at BYU. That's where like the NFL scouts come, and they test so the upcoming draft class, they come and they test your 40, your shuttle, your 3-cone, all that stuff. Right. And dude, I ran a 4.49 laser time at 240 pounds after a knee surgery. Yeah. So in my mind, it was like, no matter what happened, I can come back from this. I remember getting the call. I was dating a girl. I was hanging out with my girlfriend at the time, and I got a call. I'll never forget it. I think we were going to like Rumby or get something, some food or something. Right. You know how it is, college life. Oh yeah, extra meat. Yeah, exactly. The meatballs. Yeah. And I remember I got a call from our athletic trainer, and he said, I answered the phone. He said, "Do you want to hear the good news or the bad news first?" And I said, just give me the bad news.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Fuck the good news.
If there's bad news, then what's the good news, right? He told me I was bone on bone, and I had a hole, and pretty much at the time I didn't know what that meant. Right, because people tear ACLs, people tear MCLs, meniscus, whatever, and they can come back from it.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, people will tear their Achilles and they're playing the next season.
Right.
So to me, I didn't know the severity of the injury.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like no brainer. Like, let's just get the surgery and then I'll be back.
We'll fix it. Yeah.
We'll fix it.
Yeah.
And I know I'm mentally strong enough to overcome it and do all the rehab and do everything I'm supposed to do. So as he's explaining what's going on in my knee, one, I'm crying because I was having a really good season. It was my senior year. This was a huge year for me, to set myself up for the draft.
Yeah.
And, so
you're all American at this point. You're killing it. Yeah. You got some great numbers on all stuff. You're definitely looking at getting drafted.
Yeah. And I was crying. I was, I was crying because for 3 years now, I had surgery, come back, surgery, come back, surgery, come back. And that gets exhausting.
Yeah.
Right. And so like these guys in the NFL that get injured and come back and still play at a high level, I have just mad respect for them because people don't know how hard it is, one, to go through that process of getting injured.
Yeah.
Right. Like Odell Beckham Jr. right now, like I feel terrible for the guy because it was like ACL and he comes back and then it's ACL again and then he comes back and then he gets hurt in the Super Bowl again. And it's like that repeated.
Wasn't it ACL again in the Super Bowl?
I think so.
Jeez almighty.
So when it's a repeated pattern like that, it gets exhausting because the first one I'm like, oh, this is just a setback. I'm going to come back and I'm going to do that. And then when you do it again and then you got to go through the surgery and then 8 months and then again 8 months, it starts to become dark and it starts to become exhausting, right?
Yeah,
there's only so much you can handle of it's hard enough already to play at the top.
Yeah.
It's way harder when you've got to have all these setbacks and then try and come back and get to where you were, if not better.
Those crutches get annoying.
And so so part of my crying and just feeling of just overwhelmingness was one, figuring out that holy shit, I got to go through this all again. But in my mind, I didn't ever think it was something I couldn't come back from. So I started researching microfracture surgery and I started looking and one of the main guys I saw, which was Greg Oden. You remember Greg Oden? He was the big center that came from Ohio State. He was like the number 1 or number 2 pick.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, he's the biggest bust ever. He's whatever. A lot of people don't know he's had 3 microfracture surgeries. So one of his legs is actually longer than his other.
Oh shit.
So in one of his shoes, he's got a platform that's this big. So that's where his knee problems came from. And everybody's bashing on this guy. And I'm figuring out that it's because he's had all these microfracture surgeries. And I'm blown away that he's even still playing. But I started looking at statistics of who's had this injury and who's come back and looking across the board at different sports. And and that's when it kind of hit me. And it was it was a very, very low percentage. It was pretty much a death sentence.
Right.
Even then I'm still well, I'm going to be that 3%.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right. And
exactly.
so I had my surgery. My surgeon did an awesome job. I even went and had stem cells done. And in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to come back from this. There was this is what's so crazy is I legit thought I was going to come back from this.
Yeah.
And so in the meantime, I go and I get a job with my buddy. I'm literally delivering carpet. I'd wake up in the morning. I'd go train. I would go to work all day, making $12, $13 an hour. Just by
raking it in.
And then I'd get off, I'd go to rehab, and then I'd go back to the gym. Yeah. And I just rinsed and repeated. And I got to the point actually where I got my speed back. The problem was I could not cut to save my life. Anything laterally, multi-directional movement, it just didn't feel good. I couldn't cut.
Yeah.
But in a linear going straight forward, I could move, and I started being holy crap, I'm running again. I had to learn how to walk again because I was non-weight bearing for almost 3 months.
Oh shit.
So my quad is shut down. When I started walking, imagine having your leg up off the ground and you can't put your foot down for 3 months. when you start walking again, you got to learn all these behaviors again. So just walking was hard for me initially. And when I got to the point where I started being able to run, I even moved out to Indiana for a couple months and went to the same guy that did. That's why I brought up Greg Oden. I went out to Indiana at St. Vincent's Sports Performance because they had a guy there that specializes in rehab for this specific surgery.
Right.
And so I did everything I possibly could. I tried and the day. So that was the initial day I found out. Right. But even then, it was still not over.
Right.
Worked my ass off for about a year and a half, and my agent at the time even had me. He had me for I'm already I'm a senior. I didn't play my last 4 games my senior year. Had the surgery, and then pretty much whole season. And then my plan was to show up and run for. I was gonna
pro day.
Yeah. But my agent got me workouts with 4 different teams, even a year and a half after I'd been removed from the sport. And, one of them was the Packers and Miami Dolphins was one of them. And I had 4 teams that wanted to work me out. And my agent says, how are you? And I was at the point where I was like, dude, I've just got to go for it and whatever. I don't even care if I blow out my knee.
You've invested your entire life into this.
I just want to get on I want to put on a freaking practice, Green Bay Packers practice, whatever. I don't care. And I want to go run and do this. And so I just made a decision. But when I was training, I was getting this nasty pain in my knee. I couldn't pinpoint what it was. And it was weird. It structurally, it wasn't something structurally. It was just the best way I could explain it is I had a shit ton of pain, halfway up my femur bone and halfway down my tibia.
Oh, shit.
And I couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah.
And my agent told me before, he's like, just so you know, if you get off that plane, because of your injury history, they're gonna MRI you, they're gonna X-ray you, they're gonna poke you and prick you and all this stuff. And he's like,
you're basically cattle.
Yeah,
they're gonna check you out like cattle.
Exactly.
That's how the NFL is, man.
And he's like, so before you do this, I want you to go, meet with your doctor, get an MRI, and make sure everything's okay.
Right.
And I was like, oh shit. So I went up Park City, went and got an MRI, met with the doctor, and I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the MRI. That pain I was feeling was a bone bruise. And so imagine in between your femur and your tibia, right? Imagine having a bouncy ball in there. That's your cartilage, right? It's able to absorb. It's able to take that beating. Take out that bouncy ball and put in a rock. And that was essentially what my cartilage was, because microfracture, they drill through your bone, the blood comes up because the blood in the bone comes up to the surface, and then it hardens, and that's pretty much what your cartilage is at this point.
Are they doing that just so they can maintain cartilage there, so it's more sturdy long term?
Well, that essentially is your new cartilage. It's scar tissue, dried up, blood comes up and
just
hardens.
To have something in between the bones.
Exactly. Yeah. So that your bones aren't just rubbing on each other. And I went up and it was a bone bruise. It was bone bruise, man. I was like, that makes sense, because that's I couldn't describe the pain.
Yeah.
It was so internal. And it was that night, dude, I was meeting with a doctor, and he looked at me and he said, Jordan, he's like, listen, you can fly on this. You can go on this plane. You can fly out for this workout. And let's just say they look at all this stuff and they say, hey, we'll still give him a chance, which is going to be pretty slim, right? You invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in the athlete. He needs to be healthy. It's just business.
Yeah.
And he says, and if all that happens and you go and you do this and this and this, he's like, you might be able to play for 1 more year. And he's like, and you're going to need a knee replacement. And he's like, or you can stop and you might be able to run around and play with your kids and kind of maintain this knee and put off a knee replacement for quite a while. And that was it, dude. I was like, that when he said that, I was like, holy shit, this is, what's the point, and I had this dream for so long, and it was like, I just, that was the point where it hit me, and I was like, dude,
you're staring down the barrel of the rest of your life at this point.
Exactly. And it was that night, I remember I went up to Park City to meet with the doctor. I was with my mom, And dude, I just broke down. So after that, I was like, dude, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So, but that moment was just like everybody,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't matter if you end in injury. It doesn't matter if you end just because you're not good enough or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like when it's over, everybody goes through it.
Yeah.
And some people go through it worse than others because some people, like you said, like that was the only thing you wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
Some people go and, you know, I played with guys that were going and interviewing for MBA jobs at Stanford and shit. And it's like, no, that wasn't me, dude. Like I'm here. So that was it. And I took it hard, man. It was a hard couple years for sure after that.
Well, look, talk me through that time of depression though. How, like, what was the recovery like? Because I know for me, just trying to find a whole new identity after losing football, because you remember Friday Night Lights, right?
Oh yeah.
When, what's his name? Booby Miles or whatever.
Yeah.
He gets in the car and he starts crying. He's like, that's one of the, like, any football player watches that and just can't help but just feel, because when he said the words, what am I going to do now? I don't know how to do anything but play football. That is exactly like, to me, I was like, what am I going to do now? I don't know anything but football. Right. And I know because you're saying that depression, like, dude, to me, working out, I didn't want to work out because working out, I was thinking of football.
Yeah.
Listening to music, I was thinking of football.
Totally.
Eating food, I was thinking of football, because what I hadn't realized, that everything in my life I had connected to football.
100%.
I couldn't watch football anymore. I just barely started being able to watch BYU football again last year because I couldn't watch it, man. Yeah. All these guys were playing who were literally in my class. Like, I'm rooting for them, I'm happy for them, but I'm just like, I'm sitting there, I'm just like, I can't even watch this anymore. You know? And I'm gonna be honest, dude, like, I didn't get near to a level that you did, right? Like, I only was there for like 1 year, maybe two, like 1.5-ish. You hit this level, so I'm curious, walk me through that time of depression, like just trying to find a new identity, man. What was that?
Well,
like?
It was exactly what you just said, dude. It's crazy. Like, I resented everything. I resented football.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't watch, like you said, like I just barely started being able to watch. I didn't watch football for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm watching, and it's no offense to any, but like I have teammates that I started over that are signing $50 million contracts, and it's like, you know, and I became very, very selfish.
Yeah.
Is what happened. And I pointed fingers. I blamed, you know, I blamed this and this and this and why me, and you go through this vicious cycle of like, why me, and well, if this, and then you start blaming, you know, well, had they have done this and this, and then over time that gets fucking exhausting.
Yeah.
Because you have like this hatred in your heart, and at the end of the day, everybody at some point in their life is done playing football. It doesn't matter if you played 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, everybody has to come. And that's what helped me, is realizing that, dude, even if you go play 10 years in the league, like at some point you're still done, and it's not going to be, it's like Tom Brady coming back.
Right.
It doesn't matter, dude. He like literally set every record.
Yeah.
He could retire, and he's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. It's not even a question. And even this guy is still like, oh shit, I want to come back for another year.
Yeah, exactly. He's 45.
So it really doesn't matter the dynamic of the situation. At some point it's going to come to an end, and that hit me. But it was miserable, dude. I didn't watch football. I didn't like, I distanced myself from everything, and I just was kind of a loner, bro. Like, I just like, one, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Two, I was, you know, I was just trying to get back to being normal again, so I could just do the average. Like, I can't go skiing.
Yeah.
I can't play pickup ball. I was a good basketball player. I can't play pickup ball anymore. Like, there's a lot of things in my life I can't do.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even just, hey, football's over. It's like, there's all these things. Like, I get asked, hey, you want to go wakeboarding? I'm like, fuck, I can't. No, I can't.
Yeah.
Right? Because I literally can't even balance on the board. So it wasn't, it was football, but it was also a lot of different things that, you know, I'm going to be missing out on. And I had to find something I was passionate about, and that took a while. It took a long time. It was about a 2-year period where I didn't watch football. I didn't really talk to anybody. I kind of distanced myself from a lot of people, a lot of my friends, and it was just it was dark, dude. But what got me out of it was like, again, it goes back to like, and you're the same way, right? With you approach your business now the same that you did as an athlete.
Yes.
And you'll probably never be as passionate about this as you were about football.
Right.
And you're way more successful at what you're doing now than you were at football, right? But it still doesn't give you that freaking feeling in your stomach like it did.
No.
And so I just needed to find something that would get me out of the bed in the morning and wake up like I used to, with a fire under my ass. Yeah. And nothing will ever compare, but I had to do some deep digging for a while, and it was hard, man. But like I said, everybody goes through that. It doesn't matter if you're a Hall of Famer or if your high school career, you ended in high school. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Everybody goes through it, and I had to realize that. And but it was hard, dude.
Yeah,
it was hell.
Dude, you're saying like with the business, exactly, dude, like me getting on stage is me trying to replace that feeling of being in front of thousands.
100%.
Right? Yep. Like me throwing events is because I'm still craving that feeling, right? Me building teams and, working with teams and still having team camaraderie in a business is still me trying to replace the days where we were a team and we're screaming at each other to keep going, keep pushing, like we're doing dead sprints and we're all fucking miserable.
Exactly.
And we're still doing it together,
exactly.
Dude, and I know people talk about like from the military, from football, but when you bleed together, when you sweat together, when you puke together, when you sacrifice together as a team, like just do that kind of things, that's like, to me, I don't know how I could ever replace that.
Yeah.
And I'm searching for it.
Yeah. Still, yeah.
I'm like, where the fuck is it? Because like basketball. Here's the thing about like I've thought about this. Like, part of me almost wished I never played football because I won't have this gap in my heart for the rest of my life. I wish I'd have just golf.
Yep.
Like put me in golf because I can golf forever,
Exactly.
Basketball, I can play pickup games with my boys forever, but at the same time, I would never replace the lessons and what I learned and the everything else. So it's this thing that I go through. I'm curious to see what you think of like part of me wishes I never played football because then I'd be able to have a passion for golf until I'm 70 years old, or whatever. And I still love golf, but I'm like, no, dude, but at the same time, I would never replace what I became or what I learned because of football.
Yeah. It's a tough dynamic. I think about the same thing all the time because
you golf, right?
I do, but I suck ass. I can't put any pressure on my left leg.
Right.
So, I have a half swing. I mean, my swing's maybe slightly better than Charles Barkley, right? But
shout out to Charles.
Yeah. But no, you're right. The other dynamic of it is this, and I think a lot of people I think a lot of people don't realize this. All those things you said is 100% correct. The thing that most people don't think about is the structure.
Yeah.
Right? Like I had something every hour of my whole life from when I was 8 years old to 22 years old was a fucking itinerary.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I've got weights at 5 a.m. I've got class at 8 and blah, blah, blah. Team meeting at 2:10. Position meetings at 3:35.
Right. Yeah.
And then I get taped. I go to practice. I get done with practice. I go watch film till 7. I go home and I do my homework. And then if I have any little extra time, then I'm whatever.
Yeah, right.
And your life is literally like that for so long. Mm-hmm. And then when you leave and it's like, you wake up in the morning, you're like, you have nothing.
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell am I supposed to do today?
Right.
Right. Like I'm like in my mind, I'm like, oh, I got to go to, I got a 2:10 meeting.
Yeah.
I've got this and I've got this. So aside from, like you said, the blood, sweat, and tears and being with your brothers and playing with your best friends and playing in front of stadiums with 100,000 people and all these things and winning and, running the damn pursuit drills and doing all these things. I loved that stuff, but what I realized I was really, really missing was I didn't have the structure. And without that structure, I'd wake up and just be like, what the hell, like, what am I doing today? And so it was finding that structure again, and finding a way to do something new and have the consistency in my day where I was focused on a task at hand. I was focused on something because that's how I was wired since I was 8 years old. I always had something. And then that goes away and it's like, I could sleep until 1 and like nobody's going to get mad at me or yell at me. Right. And and so that was the toughest dynamic that I realized, that I started to get back again when I started my business. So yes, nothing will ever compare to running half gassers with you guys
Right.
and throwing up and,
Yeah.
and you know, trying to max out on and fell and going and smacking somebody in the mouth. Nothing's going to compare to that. But what I did realize that helped me a ton was finding a structure in my day-to-day, because that was the number one thing I was missing. So I didn't have to be anywhere. And that drove me absolutely batshit crazy. So
if I'll add one thing to that, also the competition. You know, because when I realized when I waking up, I'm not competing for anything. You know, because like, you know, when you're going, like, you're watching other players on your team and also other players on other teams.
Exactly.
And you're literally competing with them. In my head, I'm sitting here thinking, he's working, I got to get to work.
Exactly.
You know, in this head, there's constantly something in my head going. So all of a sudden, football's gone, and I'm like, who am I competing against? Right. And I think that's what's been beautiful about business is I get back into competition.
Exactly.
I find other motherfuckers and I literally pick out competition and I say, I'm competing with this dude.
100%.
You know what? Because my life's more enjoyable that way.
Yeah.
Life is more enjoyable with competition. And it's funny because talking about how you grew up, your dad being really hard on you and stuff, that's a lost fucking art.
It is.
Teaching people to be competitive, it's like so frowned on all of a sudden to be competitive. Since when was being competitive a bad thing? That fucking drives me, dude. Yeah. I get out of bed at 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning, just to go work out and then run gassers, go to school and do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm competing, man. Because I can't wait to, you know, be better, to push myself, you know, because I believe I can. I know I can. I just got to outwork that dude, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And so, why, like, I think you see this as well because you're still in the athlete, you know, like business, right? Do you see competition or that? Especially in basketball and even in sports today and like in NFL and NBA, I feel like we're losing the competitive edge that we used to have.
We 100% are. Like you said, it's a lost art, and it's very rare. And when you find it, those are the athletes that I'm the closest with.
Yeah.
That come to my gym, and I can name every single one of them. I'm like, these are my guys, right? Because it's 100% lost. You know, I did. Coached high school football for 5 years. I was, you know, I had my gym, I had it going, and I was like, man, and that's what at the time I started to get back into football, and it was therapeutic for me. It was really good for me to coach and stuff. I would say coaching is the closest feeling you will get, and it's even more challenging because when you're out on the field, you're in control.
Right.
When you're a coach, you just have to pray and hope that this guy's going to execute, but you don't trust anyone.
Don't fuck up again.
Exactly, right? Like, I just went over this concept like for 3 hours.
Come on, Lecca, it's the other C gap.
Exactly. And so I got into coaching, and you're 100% correct. Like, when I was in high school, we weren't friends. And again, we didn't have social media and all this stuff, right? Yeah. I think we like MySpace had just come out for like the first time or whatever. But you like where did you go to high school?
Pleasant Grove.
Okay, you went to PG. Were you or like hanging out with kids at American Fork?
No.
Right? Like, our biggest rival was like it depended on what sport, but we had Riverton, we had Alta, and bro, like, we didn't hang out with the Alta kids, right? No, well, you get older and it's all good now, right? You realize that the reason you hated these kids so bad is you're very similar,
right? But
we hated those kids.
Yeah.
Like, I remember Alta coming and watching our blue and white game.
Yeah.
And I remember,
I know,
right? They're sitting in the front row, and I remember like, we had somebody running for a touchdown, and I was running because somebody was chasing him down, and I'm like, I'm just going to tee off on this guy. And I just freaking teed off him, and it was right in front of right in front of the whole Alta team. And I just lit up. I mean, dude, he did a freaking flip, and I did it. The reason I was hustling, but two, it was right in front of where Alta was sitting. Yeah. And I laid him out, and I looked over, and I was like, you're next, motherfucker, because we played them the first game of the season.
Oh, yeah.
And that doesn't happen anymore, right?
No.
And so what I realize is working with a lot of athletes and coaching, everybody is buddy now. It's like, you know, these guys, and every kid is transferring. Like, dude, if I would have transferred to a rival school, my friends would have beat the shit out of me.
Right.
and you were a traitor, and you were like, you're gonna leave us, and then when we see you, we're gonna kick your ass.
Right.
Now it's like, oh, I'm not getting any playing time, so I'm going to transfer to this school, and everybody's buddy. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's definitely evolved, but what it's also done is it's eliminated that competition and that competitive edge. Like we used to hate our rivals, they used to hate us, and when we played, it was a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Now you go to the games and kids are shaking hands before the game and joking off and dancing and stuff, and it's like you're getting ready to go to battle against that guy. So it's changed.
Yeah.
Then you got guys like LeBron James who just wants everybody to freaking love him, and it's way different. Like MJ wasn't like that. Larry Bird was not like that. Kobe wanted to rip your heart out.
Yeah,
and
he wouldn't fucking talk to you. You kidding me? You tried to talk to Kobe before the fucking games?
Yeah.
Like you out of your mind.
Exactly right. And so it's changed a lot, and like you said, as parents, it's almost like why?
Yeah.
It's frowned upon that I want to beat this kid's ass. Why?
Right.
Like, that's why we're playing.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you can't respect. I had a lot of guys, some guys that I ended up becoming best friends with, that when we were growing up, I freaking hated. Yeah. I hated.
Right.
And then you get older and you end up playing on the same team in college, and you realize this dude is wired like me, and that's why I hated him, and it's all
that's
good.
Why he hated you.
Exactly, and it's all good, right? It's a healthy competitiveness.
Yes,
and there's not a lot of that anymore, and I will say, thankfully there still is some of that, and I still see some of that, but it's not like it used to be.
It's going away.
It is.
Well, you know what it is like. Have you ever read the book The Warrior Ethos?
I have not.
I'm gonna send you that book, dude, because the Warrior Ethos is this book, and it talks about the warrior, mentality, right? And how from the beginning of time, man has always competed. Mankind has always wanted to be better, right? They've always wanted to go to battle, go to war, and to conquer and dominate, right? But there's a spirit between warriors where, yes, we will kill each other, but we also respect the hell out of each other because we know we're both warriors, right? And actually, a lot in the book, it talks about how in our modern day, the closest thing to that is football, right? And how that's becoming a lost art, and how the warrior mentality of, I'm literally going to battle with you, right? There's this almost sacred feeling before a game or before the preparation coming up to it of, we're going to war. We're going to get physical and violent here. And afterward, there's this mutual respect that can happen, but respect is where we leave it, right? And that's the thing, is like, we can respect each other, we can compete against each other at the same time, right?
Yep, 100%.
And what's wrong with wanting to be the best? My motto of alpha influence is be great or be nothing, because that's what my father told me at a very young age. My dad was very hard on me too. Yep. If I was ever scared of a baseball, he took me home that night and threw baseballs at me.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
If I ever looked like I flinched, my dad, like before I got hit by or something, my dad would put me in the Oklahoma drills over and over and over, and shit like that, right? Yep. And I'm grateful for that, because it taught me to compete. It taught me to strive for the best I can be. And that motto, be great or be nothing, has offended so many people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm like,
well, if you're not great, then I'm just nothing. It's frowned. It's the way that our whole entire society is right now.
Right.
The way that the media and the propaganda that we have, is to accept it's pretty much accept average.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I mean, there's literally just saying like, accept weakness. Like, it's okay to be weak in this shit, right?
There's fitness magazines with like 350 pounder on them. And it's this is the new healthy. And it's like, bullshit. No, it's not.
No, it's not. You're going to die soon.
And it's like, let's call a spade, right? Like, this is not so, but they're trying to weaken us as a society.
I agree.
It's okay to be 150 pounds overweight, and it's in reality, no, it's not.
No,
it's not okay.
Amen.
And so if you're trying to reach the top, or if you're trying to, reach your full potential, it's like, oh, this guy he's an asshole, or he's selfish, or he's this and this and that, or he's just like full of himself or whatever. And it's like, that should be what's rewarded.
Yes.
Right. And nowadays there's no incentive to be great.
Right.
Right. It's like kids show up to practice and parents just think your kid's going to play because he showed up to practice.
Yeah,
and it's
participation.
Participation trophies.
Exactly.
Well, your kid was dicking off the whole time.
Yeah.
He didn't know the playbook.
Yeah.
He doesn't know this. So this guy shows up, he watches film, he stays after, he lifts weights, he's in the film room studying the plays, and when and he's watching his opponent, and when he shows up, he's just way better than your kid that comes in. But it's like, well, everybody should play. Everybody deserves to play, and it's how society is right now, and that's why it's so easy for you to win.
Right. It is.
Because like literally, it's so easy to win because it's like, everybody else wants to be at, like, I'm not saying everybody else, but the way that society is, it wants to make you feel like you belong if you're just not going to live up to your, like, you can just be average. You can be 200 pounds overweight and you can be healthy.
Right. And
you can make minimum wage and you're still fine.
Right. Yeah.
And that's just the way that everything is portrayed now. And then people buy into it.
Yes. Why? Because of course they buy into that. Oh yeah, you're right. I can do that. Yeah. I can let off the brakes a little bit. Yeah,
exactly. And so it's a shame, man. And honestly, it all starts with the parents and how they're raised, right? And so that's the biggest thing is, and why I'm so grateful for how I was raised is because I've seen it firsthand, and I know what it feels like. I know what it tastes like. I know what it smells like. And there's no other way. Yeah. There's no other way for me. So I get pissed when I see people with tons of potential that are lazy, man. Yeah. It absolutely pisses me off.
Agreed.
And with us in our gym, we really try and just maximize or get the best out of people. Because some people don't even realize how, like, I have athletes that we work with, they don't even know how good they can be. Yeah. And I've been developing athletes for 10 years, like, a decade now. Yeah. I can look at somebody and be like, holy shit, that kid is special. Yeah. But they don't even know how special they could be. And so it's our goal as coaches and leaders and then parents to get that out of them. Yeah. But nowadays, we're trying to hold that back. Yes. Hello, Johnny, it's okay. Like, you need to pass the ball a little bit more. Well, not if it means us winning the championship. Then, then
no. Yeah. Don't pass that fucking ball.
Yeah. Right. So now it's like, hey, don't step on anybody's toes. Let's walk around on eggshells. Let's not be a dog because we don't want to offend anybody.
Exactly.
And we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. And when we were, like, when I was in high school, it was like either keep up or get off the team. Yep. Right. Like if you're not going to bring it, then just don't even show up.
Yeah, you're dead weight.
And it's totally fine. Yeah. I can still be friends with that guy.
Absolutely.
Right? Like off the field, we're still friends. But on the field, you're going to hold our team back.
You're going to drink all our fucking Gatorade.
Yep. You're going to eat all of our sunflower seeds. So just go do that on the sideline, though. Like, we're still homies, but like, don't hold me back from reaching my goals. And that's the biggest thing, man. And it is becoming a lost art.
I agree. It is a lost art, but we need to bring it back. Yep. Especially, and here, you know where it starts? I love it. You just said it. It's the parents. Because the truth is, yes, there's bullshit on CNN, Fox News. There's bullshit on all media, social media or regular media. But you know who controls what really gets into the kids' heads?
Yep.
The parents.
Totally.
You determine what gets in your kids' heads. You educate your children. And when that way, your children are going to be smart enough to decipher what's right and wrong when they hear bullshit. Yep. They'll be able to smell bullshit if you show them how to smell the bullshit, right? Totally. So if we're going to blame CNN and Fox News, it's going to be there no matter what.
Exactly.
It's never going to go away. You know what we have to do? We have to take responsibility for it and own up to the fact that us as parents is where the development will come. What your father did for you is he created an animal, right? He created an animal. But he didn't just create an animal. He brought out what was already in you.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That was already in you. He just proved it to you.
Yep.
I guarantee you, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I would put $1,000 on it right now that there were a lot of times where you did not want to do it, and you told your dad, I can't even sometimes. Yep, totally. And your dad still said, what the fuck did you just say? You said you can't, bullshit, 10 more.
Yep.
Right? And then guess what you learned about yourself?
Yep.
Oh, I can do more.
I can do more. Yep. There's another gear.
Yes.
Yep. There's another gear. 100%.
Did anyone ever think your dad was an asshole?
You know, all my friends. I'm sure. I'm sure he was my coach. I'm sure
people thought my dad was an asshole.
Teams we played against. I'm sure, man. I'm sure. But you know what? My friends loved coming over to my house, dude. Anytime we had sleepovers or anytime we did, it was always at my house.
Yeah.
Why? Well, because I go sleep over at my other buddy's house, and it's like, you guys are in bed at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I even had friends' parents that used to make me, like, I had to take a shower at their house before I slept in their sheets. I'm like, what the hell, dude? But you know, at my house, you know, my dad laid cement in our backyard and built me and my brother a full court basketball court. And dude, me and my friends would be out till 2, 3 in the morning. We'd put the lights on and we'd be competing. And their bedroom window is literally right here. We're loud. We've got music on. We're bouncing the ball. And never once did my mom or dad come out of the house and say, you guys need to go to bed, or you guys, like, we can't sleep. My dad and mom probably would have stayed up all night just and felt comfortable knowing that I was out competing and that me and my friends were out doing something. We weren't out doing other bad shit.
Right.
And we were like,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's a lot of other things you could be doing at 2 a.m. Other things
we could be doing. And so yes, I mean, obviously, everybody that you compete with, or that competed against our teams growing up, I'm sure thought that.
Yeah, right.
But within my circle, we loved it because he would challenge us.
Yeah.
And, you know, we would have tournaments and he would go buy treats and, hey, you know, 2-on-2 tournament right now. We'd set up brackets. We'd have this whole tournament laid out for just me and my friends. And then he'd go buy a bunch of treats and be like, all right, whoever wins, you know, gets this or whatever. And we would be competing. We'd be diving on concrete, getting loose balls. And it didn't matter what time it was. They never stopped me. They never came out and said, hey, you guys are too loud, or hey, you guys need to go to bed. It was never that. Like, if I was, you know, it was encouraged at my household. And it didn't matter. We could stay up till 5 in the morning playing pickup ball, and it did not matter. My parents were never going to put a stop to it. Most parents, it's like, hey, it's time to, like, you know, we got to do this, or we got to do this, or got to do this. As long as I was competing and he knew that, then we're good.
Yeah.
And they didn't stop.
Yeah.
And I think that's what prevents people from becoming great, right? They're always told, I'm trying to learn with my daughter right now. I always find myself, because I'm like helicopter dad, dude. She's climbing on shit, and I'm like 2 steps ahead thinking, okay, she's going to fall. She's going to hit her head right there. And then she's like, blood's going to be, and I'm like, and so I'm always like, be careful. Yeah. I'm like, Penny, be careful. And then I'm like, no, dude, let her learn. And so I'll be there in case she does fall. Like one time she was climbing on our bar stool, and I just knew, like, if she gets 2 or 3 pounds heavier, this thing's going to tip. And I'm helicopter dad. So she climbs up on it and it tips and she falls over, and I'm right there, dude. I freaking put my hand under her head right before it hits the ground. And she looks at me and she's like, oh, you know, like that was scary. But I've learned that, and my mom does it to me. She's always like, be careful. And I'm like, no, I'm going for it. So I've tried to limit myself on how many times I say, don't do this, or don't do this, or hey, be careful, or be careful. I find myself saying that, and I'm like, dude, like when people used to tell me that, I used to get pissed off. Yeah. Like, don't do this. Right. Don't do this. Be careful with this. And it's like, that's not how you win. Right. And so I've like, but I catch myself doing it. And so when you find those behaviors that you're doing, I try and mitigate it as much as possible. Like, no, I want her to climb up that. Because then she doesn't, and she's excited, and she starts clapping, and she's like proud of herself. Yeah. And she's developing motor skills and all these things. And but I find myself as a parent, even with my 1.5-year-old, telling her, don't do this, and don't do this, and don't do this. And that's what we get told. We get told, oh, you shouldn't be doing that because of this. Yeah. You shouldn't be doing that. Or, hey, you need to be careful because of this, versus just letting kids go out and be kids, you know? And not holding them. We hold people back way too much. Oh yeah. We hold people back instead of being like, freaking go for it, man. Yeah. And it goes back to what we were talking about with our society, right? It's like, don't do this because don't buy that new truck because you're gonna look like a tool if you drive that around, right? That's right. Right. So so you get told not to do this and not to have nice things or not to work hard or to be great because of why? Yeah. Because you don't want me to? Right. Like, so what is that going to do for you, first of all, and And then for me, all you're doing is just holding me back. So,
Yes.
so, we hold people back from, like you said, it's inside of you.
Yeah.
Something's inside of you. We got to bring it out, not hold people back.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing I've noticed, especially with parents in high school, working with so many youth and high school kids. Parents hold their kids back from really like breaking out of their shell or doing something that's going to give them confidence to be able to be like, oh, I can do this, or I can be great, or I can achieve this.
Right.
Oftentimes people don't reach it because they're held back from somebody else and they're worried about what they think.
Yeah.
And it's a huge thing. It's just like with business, man. Like the more success, I mean, I look at all these plaques, like what you had to do to get this, that's a big freaking plaque. What you had to do to get that, how many people were like, told you, oh, don't do this, or you're crazy, or you're hundreds.
Yeah.
And dude, when I started my gym, I can't even tell you how many people, oh dude, don't do that.
Yeah.
You
don't want to get into that.
You don't want to get into that. Like most gyms fell in the first 2 years. You're never going to make enough money to make a living. You've got too many competitors.
Yeah.
Like that's just a bad business to start. I got told that hundreds of times.
Right.
And I did it anyway.
Yeah.
So
dude, that's what you have to do, right?
Yeah.
Dude, like if I would have listened to every single person that told me don't do something along the way, dude, I'd be such a fucking loser. Dude, I'm serious. Like, you know how many people told me don't work out? Like, oh no, don't stunt your growth. I'm like,
yeah.
Hold on, but I'm talking like when I was really young. I'm like, wait.
Which is like a huge myth, by the way, right?
I know. Like, what are you talking about? Don't stunt my growth. Like, I think we look at ourselves as human beings. We think we're really fragile.
Yeah.
We really think we're really fragile. We have no fucking idea how powerful we are.
Totally.
And one of my favorite things that like a mentor did for me that I do for other clients as well, or people, is I have people sit down and just go into like a deep meditative state and sit there and think, if you were to draw the perfect version of you, I mean, perfect body, like, okay, you're 5'5", we can't change that, right? But maybe you're 5'5", but what's your perfect body, right? What's the perfect lifestyle? How much money are you making? Draw it out for me right now. And everyone already knows exactly what their perfect life is. That perfect body, that perfect, greatest version of themselves. We already know because we fucking dream it, dude. Yep. We see it in our head every single day. And you know what it is? That's not something from exterior. That's the interior greatness in you, that power that's in you that's screaming to let it out. Yep. It's screaming to just say, be this person. And you're never going to get there unless you're okay to step on some toes, unless you're okay to make some waves, right? My favorite saying that I've ever heard was from Bishop T.D. Jakes, which says, if you want to be great, you're going to have to make waves, right? If you don't want to be great, then be mediocre and fit in, right? Takes fucking courage to do that shit, right? And that's why I look at you, dude, and I see like, okay, I know what you've accomplished, football wise, right? And I watched it, dude. It's funny. Like, I watched you growing up playing football, right? I was at those BYU games watching you, right? I was one of those young kids doing that, and I was inspired. I was watching your tapes on YouTube. I was, because I was fucking like, I'm gonna be one of those kind of guys, right? And then I see you go out and you're not only physically, I said at the beginning, you look like Hercules, but then you do that in business. You don't do that unless you got something deep inside you that says, this is who I can fucking become. You have that vision in you, and I just wish more people would have that, right? That's what I love what you're doing with the gym, because it's not just like it's not just a gym, right? I love, because you just said it. I know I have a lot of friends who've gone through that, where you talk about how to be the best you. Right? How to bring out the one in you that's like, this is your greatest self. Find that greatness inside of you and go fucking win, bro. Go win. Go compete. Like, if we could just instill that more in our kids, I think America's got a future.
Yeah, 100%.
But if we don't, we're fucking screwed. We're screwed, man. Because whether we agree with it or not, China, dude, they're doing that shit right now with their kids.
Totally.
And maybe it's through communism, you know what? But they're still doing it. Right?
So
I'm just, I know it's not an America versus China thing, but it kind of is. Like, we got to stay number one, people.
Have to stay number one.
So what's next for you? What's the end up goal that you see? Because you got some big businesses going. I don't know if we want to mention, you talked to me before. You got stuff going on with, obviously the gym, potentially getting into some gun stuff, right?
Yeah. So, the first 4 years of my business, it was just all me. And you know this, starting what you did, like when you first start out, you don't have the capabilities to hire people to offload work for you. Right. So when you start out, I mean, you're doing all the copy and the writing and the marketing, and you're
customer service
and you're the janitor, and you know, so for me in my gym, the first 4 years, it was 18-hour days. I woke up, it was, you know, 360 days out of the year, because I think we were closed on Christmas, and even on Christmas I was in there. You know, I have an athlete that comes in on Christmas every single year. She wants to work out at 6 a.m. on Christmas. Again, that competitive edge. You tell, I'm there for you, dude. I will wake up and I'll be there on Christmas for you, because she wants it. But, you know, for my first 4 years, it was just me. I opened the gym at 5 a.m. I ran every single class. I ran every single personal training client. I did everything nutrition. And I even had a client that he worked out at 10 p.m. It was the only time I could fit him in. And I would train him till 11. And I had this ridiculous schedule for so long, and you know, and it was good, but I found myself I'm like, hey, I've booked myself completely out. I'm doing what I feel like is a decent job, but it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't enough for me.
Right.
And like you mentioned it, man, like the thing I was missing was a team.
Yeah.
I was missing like being I no longer can fulfill my job to each and every client. I mean, I'm seeing over 200, 250, 300 people a week by myself.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't do that.
I can no longer fulfill
right.
those clients to the highest of my capabilities. Right. And so what do you need? I need somebody else. I need another trainer. And so, these last 4 years, what I've really tried to do was scale. And you know how hard scaling can be, right? Like, first of all, hiring people's, I heard a quote from Gary Vee one time. And he said that the problem with hiring, he's like, everybody sucks at hiring people, right? Because I could get a resume and it's like kinesiology and I did this and all this and this and this, and I'm like, shit, on paper he looks really
dope.
good.
Looks dope.
Let's go. And then they don't have any people skills. They don't know how to do sales. They don't know how to talk to parents. They don't know how to motivate kids, right? That it's they're not going to stay and go above and beyond to help create better systems and all this stuff. And so everybody's shitty at hiring people, and I'm kind of loyal to a fault where I will try and take this person and be like, no, let's do this, and this. And at the end of the day, some people just don't want that.
Yep.
And so it was a rough 4 years for me of trying to figure out and trying to, one, make sure that every single person that came in, one, from the programming to how our sessions looked, how they felt, what our speed training was like, what our programs looked like. I wanted to scale. I wanted to fulfill better. I can't answer the calls when I'm on the floor all day.
Right.
Nobody's doing marketing because I don't have time for marketing.
Right.
Nobody's handling customer service. Yeah. I mean, you know how it goes. And then on Sundays, I'm there mopping and vacuuming the gym so that our clients could show up first thing morning and have a clean gym. So initially you take on all these roles, and what I've really tried to make happen the last 4 years is to scale and grow. So I've got 3 full-time trainers that are full-time. I've got and then I've got 4 other employees that are contractors. So we now have grown from just one person, and now we've got 7 people on our team, and it's that's been fun and exciting. And so for me, I'm still not satisfied. There's other things that I'm working on currently at the gym to just expand what we can offer.
Right.
And so, initially it was like, you just do this, and then it's like, you've got to develop new skill sets so that you can offer more, so that you can reach more clientele. And so that's the big focus right now is continuing to scale the gym and continuing to help people, whether it's a lot of people recognize us for training athletes, but we literally get emails, and it's like, hey, do you only work with like high level athletes or like,
Young,
we train everybody. We do personal training. We have adult classes. So it doesn't matter, everyday average Joe, whatever. We do it. We do sports nutrition. We do functional nutrition. We do online programming, online training, and we do a variety of stuff. So it's just, how can we keep, expanding our horizon and keep and fulfilling at a high level. And there's a lot of stuff now that I'm able to work on the business versus being in the business on the floor day to day. And so I feel like I'm actually really excited, man, because we're in a really good position now where I feel like it's the first time where I've been able to put all my focus on the business. And not just be like head spinning everywhere, doing 100 different jobs. And so I want to keep growing that. I've also got into, I think obviously my main passion is strength and conditioning, but when you have that entrepreneur part of your heart, you love building things and you love starting things. Right. And so it doesn't just stop at the gym. Like, that's my baby, because it was like, that's what I started. That was the first thing I started. But I've got into, investing in real estate. I have 2 other businesses that I do. And one of them is I'm actually really excited about. We just launched about a year ago, and we manufacture gun parts. That's right. We make parts for guns, and it was a concept that me and my good buddy had come up with. We researched the market, and we really hit on a specific niche, a very niche brand that ended up, we ended up kind of hitting the gold pot on it. And so now it's like, that in its first year has done really, really well. And it's like, now we just see this huge vision of like, what can be possible with this thing. And so I've got my hands in a lot of things,
spreading it,
and I'm just trying to spread. And I love, I'm a builder. I love taking a concept from scratch when it's nothing, and being able to turn it into something. And I think that's the biggest thing, like about the gym it was me training kids at a high school football field is how it started. Right. And so that to me is scratch, right? And what can we take that and turn it into? And that's what I love doing. And there's tons of things that I'm passionate about. And so to me, it's about building a brand, building a team, and being around people that you enjoy working with, and then how can we fulfill at the highest level? And a lot of it is performance. Yeah. It's like we also have to get results out of these people. So as I'm building and as I'm focusing on all these other things, the end result is still the same. And it's like, we've got to take this guy from here to here. Nothing else matters. Right. And if we don't do that, there is no such thing as a brand. There is no brand. Right. And it's like with your brand, if you don't get your clients success, then what are you? Yeah, exactly. And it's no different with the gym. And so we're just continuing to try and grow and see how big and how far we can take it.
Well, I'll say this last bit though, getting into the gun industry. I said it before, but you know who the best seller of guns are? I said it before, but it's
Democrats.
Best gun salesman in the world is Joe Biden and Barack Obama.
Yeah, exactly.
Currently battling for the number 1 spot, right?
Exactly.
So you know what? In the gun world, man, like every time they bring up that shit, gun sales spikes.
Exactly.
So what a good business.
Well, we've seen it, and guns are fun, and I'm a Jeep guy and I'm a Harley guy. Yeah. So I had a Jeep until I, got my truck or whatever, and I have a Harley. And I view, from a business standpoint, I view guns the same way as a Harley and a Jeep. So when I got my Jeep, you get it stock. Yeah. And it comes with like just basic tires and basic rims.
Stock suck.
They're the ugliest car in the world.
They are.
It really is.
They suck.
It is a pretty ugly ass car if you think about it. Yeah. But as a customer of a Jeep or as an owner of a Jeep, I can take this basic ass thing that just kind of looks like shit, honestly. Yeah. And I can turn it in to whatever. I can go get 37s on it, some big rims, and I can get a front light and bars and you can make those things look just so badass. The same thing with Harley. Like people, every Harley owner I know, like the Harley was the cheapest part of the purchase.
Yeah.
You buy the Harley and then you end up spending double of what the Harley costs in parts, right? You get new fork tubes, you get new handlebars, you get a new seat, you get the first thing you buy is a new exhaust. So so it's loud and cars can actually hear you and because it's badass when it's loud.
Sounds dope.
And and so I really looked at that market as the same way with guns. You know, as somebody, when I got into guns, the first thing I bought was a mag extension because I got I carry a Glock 26 and it's short. My hands, you know, my pinky's falling off. I remember the first thing I was like, oh, I need this. And then you're like, you see all these other, and so now you start, and if you're a gun guy, then you love accessories.
Right. Yeah.
If you're a Harley guy, you love accessories.
It's like
if you're
Barbies,
a Jeep guy,
but for dudes.
Exactly. And you dress them up but the thing about our company is it's also performance based, right? Yeah. So for our product, we want to reduce recoil so that you can get back on target faster.
Right.
So the aesthetics and all that is huge.
Yeah.
We want it to look good, right? It's just like with training. You want to get the abs,
right?
And you want to look good,
right?
But if you're slow as shit and you can't jump or you can't move, then it doesn't really matter what you look like. And so I, to me, it's kind of this. It's the same approach.
Yeah.
It's, can we make a part that is looks badass that people want to put on their gun, and the aesthetics of it is like, I don't even care if this thing performs. I just want it on my gun because it's badass. Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, for our shooters that are more serious, that are sponsored shooters or whatever, that compete in competitions, because we make parts for competition guns. Is it actually going to perform? And that was the biggest thing. So yes, it looks awesome. Yes, it looks good, but does it perform? It's just like with you don't get a new exhaust because it looks cool because you can go pick out a cool one and but is it loud so cars can hear you? Does it increase your torque? Does it do it's cool, but it's got to perform. Right. My grip's got to feel good. Yeah. It's got to feel good. My pedals that my feet are on need to fit my style and the way that you like to ride. Do you like your handlebars higher? Do you like them lower? And that's why I compare guns to Harleys and Jeeps because yes, it looks badass, but at the end of the day, it just comes back to being performance based, and that's something I love. Yeah. And so it's another thing that I can find myself passionate about.
That's dope.
So
that's exciting. Yeah. Well, I'm going to buy some of this shit, so you guys should too. Okay, well, dude, we spit some fire on this one, man. Yeah. It was a good episode. If people want to get in contact with you, people want to get to know you more, maybe it's for training, maybe it's for guns, or honestly just follow with what you're doing, what's the best place we can send our audience to reach you, bro?
Yeah, absolutely. So our Instagram for our gym is P1 Athlete. So just at P1 Athlete. My personal is Pendleton Performance. And if you want to reach out to us, just go to our website, p1athlete.com.
Perfect.
And you can submit a form and go check out, whatever we offer and submit a form through there. And we'll, now that we have people in place to, right? Actually we'll reach out to you as soon as possible. But yeah, man.
Awesome. And stay tuned for this gun launch because hasn't quite gone live yet because I can't buy it yet, but I'm the first one to buy it before you can.
So
we can?
Yep. So
never mind. Fucking buy it now.
Buy it now. So our company is 45 Blast.
Okay,
it's called 45 Blast, and we have some parts right now, but we've got some big things in the works.
Oh, cool.
That are coming, and yeah, man. So it's fun. Dope. Get yourself a Canic.
Oh yeah.
Go get one of our compensators.
Hell yeah.
So
I'm gonna go get one. Cool. Well, everyone, we're gonna link all that in the bio. Everyone go follow this dude right now. Obviously, he's been doing big things, but he's gonna be doing massive things in the future. I have no doubt because this is one of the most competitive dudes you're ever gonna meet, and honestly, one of the hardest workers you're ever gonna meet. So, dude, Jordan, thanks for coming on, brother.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.